everybody. So today we're doing a class for right angle weave cuff bracelets. And this is a recorded class. There will be a replay of it available. And like I say at the beginning of most of our classes, it's really fun to watch one time, get an idea of the start to finish process for making these. And then if you like to use the replay for making along, that tends to be a little easier because we only have an hour. I tend to use fast forward methods where I've built samples kind of halfway done, and so we can get through every step at least once and maybe twice if we need to. And so once again, these are pearl cuffs, and they're made with a base layer of right angle weave. You create it. It's a 2-column base layer, and I'll go through that in some detail. And then a layer of pearls is added, which gives it this shape. And then the final step is we go around the sides with size 6 seed beads. So this project is made of size 6 seed beads, some 4mm pearl beads, and then just at the clasp end, we have some 11s, but just a few. And so I'll go ahead and switch my camera. And show a close-up of these bracelets. And then I have another light here I'm going to bring over. Get a little bit brighter for us. I'll try the focusing here. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, so once again, these are the magnetic pearl cuffs, and they are made with right angle weave stitch. And so I thought for today, I'll go over materials, and then I'll show you a layout of each step in process. And then we'll get started with building this step. And we'll probably focus on this a little bit because it's the only part that that I think is tricky at all. It's not tricky, but what I find with right angle weave, especially if you've never tried this stitch before, is it doesn't give you the little confidence boosts that a snapping stitch does. If you're like thinking of peyote stitch or even herringbone, you get these little kind of confidence markers as you're working through it, where things look aligned and are snapping into place. With right angle weave, that's hard to achieve. But I'm gonna share what works for me, and it's a little bit of a layering process, but it can help, and it can make a lot of other designs possible. And so switching to materials here. Work with a bunch of colors of size 6 seed beads. You can work this all in one color. You can work it with a mix. For example, this was made all in one color. This was made with the mix. You can do whatever you like. You can have a pattern, or no pattern. But the reason I'm doing multicolor is so you can see each row. I thought that would help us a little bit with getting started. So there's those. And then the 4mm pearls that I'm using, I got them off one of the bulk strands that comes with a bunch. They look like this. They come in lots of colors. We're going to use the smallest strand that's on it. So this one. And then save these for another project. We have some stuff coming up where we'll be using these other ones. So they certainly won't go to waste. And as I mentioned before, we'll need some 11s. That's just at the end when we bring the clasp on. And you don't have to use a magnetic clasp, but it's fun. And so that's what I'm using today. You can use any clasp you like. For thread, I'm going to use, today I'm going to be working with 0.008. And so usually we're working with the 6. The 6 will work. The 8 will make it a little bit easier, especially if this is a new stitch for you, because it's thicker and it will make the beads hold their shape just a little bit more. But I built one of my samples with 0.6 and it was good too. And I'll be showing you guys that next. And then for needles, just the regular size 10 beading needles that we usually use for class. Grab one of those and show it. So just one of those. And you'll need some scissors. And just for, let's see, actually, no, we don't need pliers today because unless you're using a jump ring. But my clasps have it built on there. And we're stitching directly into it. So we don't really need tools today. But if you wanted to use a different kind of clasp, you might need some pliers. Okay, I think that's all. That's everything that we're using. So here's what step 1 looks like. And I'm gonna move this one away really quick. Okay, so the first step is to build a base layer of right angle weave, and it's got 2 columns. And in the instructions, it walks you through creating row by row, all in one swoop. But I did want to touch on a question that I got, which was, hey, could I just build 1 row of right angle weave and then come along and build the other side? If you've done right angle weave before and that's your preferred method, that will work great. And I would say go for it. It won't make any difference into the end result of our design. So yeah, both ways will work. But today I'm going to be working it together because I feel like it saves time. And it also gives, it presents the stitch in a way that you'll learn something that I think we're going to grow into. I have some projects that I'd like to do for April that use this stitch again, and having it built this way will help with those projects. So I thought we'll just do it that way. So that's step 1. Once you've got that built, you'll make a turn. You'll make a turn into the center and start adding pearls. And when you add the pearls, it'll do this. It'll automatically start to shape like that. And at first, when you just have the pearls on there, it will really coil. I mean, it will coil up like a lot. Then we come along and we add 6s in between. So here's one side not done. You can see how it's lots of space. On this side, we've got the 6s added. And that will actually cause it to coil a little bit less. And so it will become kind of perfect cuff shape. And they look really cute on when you're wearing them. They just snap right on. That's why I like the magnetic. All right, so I'm going to dive into creating a stitch. Now, this is a very thread hungry stitch, and I think the instructions, they call out 75 inches of thread. But if you're comfortable working with more, you can even cut more, but on all the ones I've done, I've ended up adding thread, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So no worries on the length of thread. Really is just a comfortable working length would be totally fine. And again, this is the 0.8. You can use 0.6 if you like. I'm going to cut a working length for me. These are some scissors. These are the Recollections precision scissors. Oh, and I wanted to point out one more thing before I forget. Sorry about that at the beginning. So here's the step-by-step that we have. It was on the materials list when you registered, and it's also, we can also drop it in the chat if you don't have it. It has one typo that we just discovered. I'm sorry about that, guys, but in my legend, I say size 6 bead, and then I wrote 8 here. That should be a 6. It's the only place where I made that error, so, and that's in the legend. It's throughout the document calls out a 6, so it should be still pretty easy to follow, but I wanted to make sure I highlighted that. Okay, so back to the thread. I just cut a working length of the 0.008 Wildfire. Now I'm going to string on a size 10 beading needle. So here's the needle. And there's a trick you can do with chain nose pliers to flatten the ends that will make it thread easier, especially if you're using the 0.8. Kind of helps. And fold it over 7 inches or so, whatever works for you. If you're working with a long strand, fold it over more. And then get your first color out, or whichever color you're using. Size 6 seed bead. And then you'll want to string 4 beads. So once you've got 4 on here, bring it down to the end and leave about 10 to 15 inches of tail. We're going to use that tail to attach the clasp of one side of the clasp. So you'll need a little bit. And so you've got 4 on here. We're going to go through that twice. So I'm going to go through one time. And there's that first bead again, going through that. And there's that shape that we know for right angle weave. I'm going to go through it one more time. And I'm doing that so that it doesn't move around. One of the things that I think frustrates people about writing a weave, and I know it stopped me from working with it for a very long time, was I don't like stitches that move. After I've set them, I want them to kind of stay put. The stitch won't do that, especially with the size 6 beads, unless you do this step. It takes extra time, uses extra thread, but it makes it a lot more fun, because now that's not going to wiggle around. It's going to hold that shape for me when I add my next layer. And so I'm going to come up through one more. From the point where we were at, you could just start building the end, but I like to keep, you know, a pattern to the turns. Having said that, this will work even if you don't keep the pattern, as long as you don't cross intersections, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So what we're doing now is you picked up 3 size 6s, and I'm going through the 6 that my thread's exiting, and I'm going through the opposite direction. So here's where I'm exiting here. Here's the 3 new beads. I'm coming up that direction. And it'll pop into place, and it'll look like those 2 squares next to each other. And see how he's just, it's really wiggly on that side. So I'm gonna do that same step and go through them all again. Okay. And coming up through the middle here. Now, if you're in a different direction, when you get to where you're at here, it will still work. It just depends. And when I got started with writing a weave, I got really confused, and I thought I had to always be going right. You don't. It's as long as you follow the same simple rule that you never want to cross this way. Let me show you what I mean. You never want to take your thread in that direction across from one bead to the other. You always want to be going around. So if I wanted to make something here, and then I wanted to get over there, I would have to go through these beads again, if that makes any sense. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to switch colors. Get some yellow out. So for the first side over here, I'm going to pick up 3 size 6 beads and go back through the one I'm exiting in the opposite direction. And don't worry, we're going to go through this 2 times. So if it's not clicking just yet, don't worry, we're going to come back. But the same thing we did before, I'm going to go through them all again, so they don't move around. And so going through all of these stitches twice, it is optional, but it's highly recommended. It just makes it easier to work with something that stays put. So there, I'm back where I started, and now I'm going to go. Now what I want to do is I want to finish my box over here. So I have to get there without crossing. And it can be tempting just to kind of add another bead and skip, but what you want to do is travel down through that one, and now make a turn this way. And so I've got 2 sides. I've got 1 and 2, and I just need the other 2 sides. So I'll pick up 2 more. Come down through that bead. And there we go. I'm going to do 1 more row, and then I'm going to start over. But first I'm going to show you going around it again. So all I'm doing is that same stitch, that same path through all the beads. And see how tight that got? Got a lot tighter. A lot more fun to work with something that's not moving out of shape whenever you stitch through it. So now I'm just traveling. I'm traveling back up through the beads so I can get to, I want to be exiting from that one. And with every new row, you'll be starting with one side and the other side and the other side. New color. and 3 more. So picking up 3 6s. Oh, sorry, I'm not exiting from the bead I want to be through. Here we go. Now 3. Here we go. And then just going back through. There's the next one. And just really quickly, I'm going to go through those all again. And once you get the hang of this, it will go fast. It doesn't take very long to create one of these pieces. Once you've got the swing of the stitch and the, you know, the structure for it, going through it twice, it won't feel like it's taking forever. And so now I'm exiting from here. Got 2 more size 6s, and I'm going to complete my square by going through this one. And there we go. Come back up through this side. And then again, reinforcing it. And I'm going to get to where I would want to be if I was going to start the 4th row. So from here, you could go into either of these. It really doesn't matter, but I tend to alternate building this side and that side. Okay, so I'm going to start over and cover that one more time. Put this over here for now, actually. I can find it later. Got all the colors I need. I got some more thread. And in case anyone's just joining, the 0.08 is what I'm using. You can use the 0.06 if you want to. The 0.8 will just make it easier. But it's still completely doable with the 0.6. Okay, and I cut it with the Recollection scissors. And I'm actually gonna go a little slower this time because I know this is one of the more complicated stitches out there. I almost shied away from teaching it. I almost did, and then I started seeing all these, you know, ideas that, oh, hey, this is really cool. I could try this and that. And so I thought, well, let's just give it a try. Because honestly, if I can figure it out, guys, I had an aversion to it for so long where I thought, oh, right angle weave, that's too hard. And then it just clicked one day, and that will do the same for you. And then you'll have all these possibilities open for design. So, and I'll show you what I mean. When I get to the end, I'll show you a project that I would like to do next. But sorry, pick up 4. So we cut, as far as how much thread to cut, 75 inches is what the handout says. You can cut less if that's not a comfortable working length for you. If that's a lot of thread to be pulling through, start with less, and I am going to show you adding thread. But for now, I'm cutting what's good for me. Like probably, I think I cut 36 inches, and I've got a tail of about 10 to 15 inches for putting on a clasp, and I've strung 4 size 6 beads. Okay, so I'm going to go back through all 4. And I'm going to go through that first one again. You could go through all of them. I'm just doing this to show you the pop, the shape. So there's the shape. And I'm going to go through these 3 beads again, only to reinforce them, and then back through that one. So now I'm just giving it strength, that's all. So one more. And I want to say thank you for, for sticking with me on this one. It will become something very fun really soon when you see what you can do with this stitch. It's totally worth the investment of learning it. So I've got these 4, and pull back my sample here. So the way these are built is you create little stars basically, but I'm going to borrow one of the arms of the star to create my next one. So they're joining, they're sharing one little point, and then you'll do the same for the top 2 and the next 2. And so what that looks like while you're building it is I'm going to build my other side here. So I'm going to pick 3 more beads. So just think of them as little stars, and they're each gonna, they're gonna share a point. So here's 3 more. And I'm gonna borrow this arm for my 4th. So going through there, and pull tight. And get it to pop in place. And then I'm gonna go through all of those again so that it will hold its shape. And don't worry if it's loose. That's why we're going through them twice, is to make them not be loose. There's that one. Going through all of them again. And there we go, starting to get a shape we recognize. And so that's row 1 for this design. I'm going to turn and go through these beads here. And now I'm going to add the next row. And so bringing the sample back, what we're doing next is we're putting hats on our stars. And we're going to borrow the bottom bead, this bead and that bead. We're going to share it with these, making those same circles. So I'm going to pick up 3 more size 6s, and borrowing that bead that I am exiting, I'm going to go through that. And then I'm going to reinforce it. And to do that, I'm just going to go through all those beads again. Oops, I caught on there, sorry. Okay, coming up through this side. Okay, and at this point, I've gone through them all again. And now I'm going to borrow these 2 for my next star. So I only need 2 more. So picking up 2. This is my one side, this is the other. I'm going to go through this one. And the reason I'm going through that one is I want them to join. So you see you've got a point, a point, a point, and a point. It's kind of like a little, what did I do there? Oops, you guys, I did something wrong. I'm going to show you what I did. I crossed an intersection. You see that loose strand there? It shouldn't be there. So I'm going to get out of there. And pull those off. So I was exiting from here, and then I tried to add my 2. I need to travel down through there and down through there and then add them. So I'm actually kind of glad I made that mistake so I could show that. Does it make sense what I did? Does everyone see what I did wrong? I tried to add these 2. I'm going to show you again what I did. What I need to do is make another circle like this, but what I tried to do is exit from here and connect it to that. I don't want to do that. I need to travel to where I need to be. So I'm going to come down here. And then turn this way. And if it's easier to visualize them as little boxes instead of stars, that can help too. Seeing that that's one box, and now I need to add these 2 sides. And I'm already using these existing sides. And now it looks right. And I'm just going through it to reinforce it so that it does not wiggle around. See, that's easy to do, but also super easy to fix. So I'm going to go through and reinforce that side. And so now where I need to be is exiting from one of these top ones. So I'm going all the way through do that one, do this one. I'm going to build another row. And so just like before, we picked up 3, because right now this box has one side, it needs 3 more. So go through here and reinforcing it, going through them all again. Okay, and then so just like before, we're just on the other side. We want to put a bead here and a bead here. And so to do that, we need to be exiting from one of these beads. But I'm not going to cross an intersection and go this way. You see how there's no threads crossing here in those directions? They're all going in a circle. So to do that, I'm going to need to come up through this orange one. So I can't go straight across through that yellow one. I want to come up through the orange one, so that I'm maintaining that circular stitching motion. And now the other direction through that bead. And so from here, what I'd like to do is check in with you guys and see, how is this sitting? Is this clicking? How do you guys feel about it? Would you like to see it one more time? I think we can do that. I can start it again.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey.
I just want to let you know, I'm monitoring the sidebar. We're not getting very many questions, and you're getting a lot of that makes sense.
Yay.
So I think you're good.
Okay,
lots of it makes sense.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, good. I'm so glad, yeah, because this is one of those things where once you get this, there's just all these possibilities for so many fun things you can do. So yay. All right, so we've got that part figured out. So from here, what you would want to do is build a band. And I'm getting to the spot where I'd want to be to add my next row. You'd want to keep doing those steps until you have a band that's about 1/2 inch longer than you would want it to be if you were making a bracelet that you wanted to be 7 inches. Make this part 7.5 inches, because what happens when we do adding the pearls is it scrunches it up a little bit. So give another 1/2 inch of length to what you want your finished design to be. Yay. Okay, so what I'm going to show you the fast forward here. So what we did, or what I did earlier, was I kept doing this, right? And I built a lot of rows, and I kept changing the colors. And let me make sure this is all in the frame. There we go, we're all in frame here. Okay, so I kept building rows. I built a lot of them. I had to add thread at some point. And the way that I did that, I'm going to do that on this sample here. So let's pretend I'm running out of thread. I'm going to bring in a new strand. I'm just going to cut a little bit for this demo, but you'd want to cut, another good working length, and thread a new needle, leaving the old thread in place. Notice that I didn't cut it yet or weave it in yet, and I'm threading a new needle right now. There we go. The point is a little trickier to get through, but it's totally doable with the 10s. Okay, and so to add new thread, you just come in anywhere really, and start looping through your stitch, through your stitches. And the more times you overlap your thread, the tighter it's going to get. So oh, sorry guys, I hit the camera there. The more times you loop around, here's my tail of the new strand that I just added. It's this one right here. And see, it's still moving when I pull, so I know I've got more work to do. So I'm going to go through the one that it's exiting. Let's slow down a little bit here. And I'm going to make some more loops. And again, I'm just following that same circular motion that we had for, you know, when we built these stitches without doing any of these crossings. You don't want to cross like that. Just want to always be going in a circle. And it doesn't matter what direction as long as you're doing that. Okay, and so now I'm going to do a test. So a little pull test to see if my tail moves. It's not moving. I'm pulling pretty hard. So I feel like it's good. So I would come along, up through another one, up here, and now I'd start building my next row. So I'd pick up 3 more. And I would probably build 2, maybe 3 more rows. And I would take this tail, which was our old working thread that got short, and just weave it up into the work. That way you don't have too many overlaps. But again, with this stitch, overlaps aren't going to hurt you. They're just going to make it stronger. So it's really okay if you wanted to just, you know, weave it in now, you could, but there I just really quickly built another row. Reinforcing that row, going through it again, and coming up, and then just heading into one of my top beads to start the row after that. And so then I would take this strand and weave it up. So any questions about adding new thread? Did that make sense, guys? If you have any questions, shout them out in the chat and I'll try to answer them. I'm gonna move this sample along. So adding thread covered and all of that, we get to a length that we think will work for our bracelet. And shown here, I'm exiting from the last bead in my row. I'm just going to turn and go through this bead. That's the one in the center. And this is where we're going to add the pearls and make it curve. So for the pearls, again, we're using these 4mm pearls that come from these really pretty strands. The one I'm showing here is like a gray, like almost like a Aurora Borealis finish to it. It's really pretty. I think it might look cute with these colors, so I'm going to try it. A few of those. Okay. And then just go ahead and pick up one pearl. Picking up one pearl here. And I'm exiting from that center bead here. We were here, we went through. I'm going to go through the next center bead. So that turquoise bead there. And pull tight. And the pearl will snap into place, and a couple of things are going to happen when it does. Automatically, it's going to start to make a little tent shape with your beads. And this is where this shaping, the possibility of doing shaping like this, where it's like a little boat now on the back, is what brought me to really like right angle weave. I saw a couple of designs by some artists that I follow where they use this shaping to create the most magnificent pieces. And so I had to learn it. I had to just sit down and like force myself to learn it. And it's fun. Now it's fun for me. So I hope you guys like it too. So I picked up another pearl and I just went through the next center bead. And I want to show you guys what happens as we do that. This is a pretty quick step. We'll be to the end of the bracelet within just a few minutes. But every time it just makes it tighter. And I'll just keep going down. I don't know if you guys can see the shape that it's starting to take if I turn it on its side. When I'm working these, I think I do kind of hold it. I've been trying to pay attention to how I hold the work and share that. And in this case, I'm purposely trying to work it flat on the mat so you guys can see it, but I think this one is one where it's okay if you wanted to pick it up and work it. From a tension perspective, I don't see that as an issue for this design. think that will work fine. Okay, yeah, going to the next one. And I'm pulling a little bit tight. I'm not, going crazy, but I'm pulling it tight enough that I want two things to happen. I want the bead, the thread side to be parallel like that, not sticking up like that. So I'm pulling it until I see that kind of snap down, and then I'm considering it good. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit faster, and if there's any questions about that, just shout them out. I guess virtually shouting them out. And then while I'm doing this, I was going to share that sometimes I get asked questions about, well, can I use different bead sizes? And this is another one of those designs where, yeah, I think you really could. Like if you just tried some 8s and then switch this size of pearl to a 3mm. I do think I've seen 3mm rounds on the strung wall at Michael's. And if I can find any in my boxes, I will try it too. Or I might just make a trip to Michael's because, I like going there and finding beads. Like I need more beads, guys, but really, I like beads. So I'm almost to the end. Almost getting there. But I feel like this part works up really quick. And look what it's doing. It's just coiling. All right, almost there. Yeah, I used to go and just hang out at Michael's and look at stuff a lot more than of course now it's more challenging, but I used to just go on these kind of color palette searches and I'd build little palettes in my basket. Oh, the good old days. They'll come back. They will. Okay. All right. So now I'm on the last one, and look how crazy this thing went, and look how much it shortened up too. And that's why the 1/2 inch is a good thing to add. And it's really coily now. We're gonna make that ease up a bit when we add the next part. But I'm gonna go add one more pearl. And then I'm gonna make a turn. So I'm exiting from that center bead, the last center bead that we had. I'm gonna make a turn, and it doesn't matter which way you turn. You can go through either one, but I'm gonna turn through one of my next beads in the circle. And then this part's up to you color-wise, whatever color you'd like to do. I think what I did for mine was I picked up the bead I'm going into, I picked up that color. So I might need to grab these other colors out. But so here's yellow, going into yellow. And so it's going to ease up a lot. That spinning, coiling, it's going to calm down a lot with each one that we add. And we are going to do this on both sides. When we get to this end, we're going to add a clasp. Yellow. It looks like I went into purple next. And this is, it's just called purple, but it is a galvanized purple. Really gorgeous color. Going from into purple here. And I think I just need red now. Okay, so you just keep doing that. And another thing to note is as you're adding these sides, you don't have to pull super tight. And in the case of some of the beads, there might be some space. So you may end up having an opportunity to select beads that fit. Some of the beads are a little rounder, some are a little flatter. If you have an open space and you have a larger-ish bead and you want to fill it, you can do that. See, like I've got a big gap there, but luckily, got this bead here. Definitely an organic flow to this design. And let's see how we're doing. We're doing pretty good on time, but what you would do is you just keep going and add a bead in between each one until you get to this side. And so what I'm going to do is switch to a sample where I'm already over here. So save us a few minutes. And I get these beads out of the way. And earlier I was working on a sample with the agate mix, which is my favorite mix. It's so pretty. It has this kind of olivey, it's got 3 different greens. What's not to love? And it's got topaz. I went a little crazy and I made a pattern with that. It's very similar to the pattern we just did with just stripe rows. And what's been done on this so far is the pearls were added down the center and I finished one side, but not the other. And I'm exiting right from where I added the last side bead. So it was here, here, and here. And sorry, that was my tail side. This is my working side. So I was going in this direction. So I hope that makes sense. All the side beads were added. I know I switched colors on you guys, so if you have any questions about that, I can back up a bit. But this was my tail side. We added the pearls, and then we added all these side beads. And now it's time to add the clasp. And you'll add the clasp on this side at this step, and then complete adding all the 6s on this side, and then we'll do the clasp on this end. So from here, I need to add one more bead and make my turn. You can see where, see here's the last bead we added, pulled it into place. And now I gotta make a turn. And to do that, I'm gonna add one more bead. So get my olive here. Okay, so here's olive and making a turn. There we go. And now I need some 11s and clasps. So the clasps I'm using are these magnetic ones. They're really cool. I think they come in a pack of 4. Yeah, there's 4 in each pack. Too many there. And I'm gonna need some 11s. You only need a few. And then also, if you get to this step and you feel like you wanted to add 10s instead, I did try 10s and they did work, so that should be fine too. But what I liked about the 11s was they didn't fan it out as much, so you can preserve that curve. I picked up one 11. I went through the clasp, and I picked up one more size 11. And I'm going to go through the next bead here. And lock that into place. So I want to go through that one more time. And so in the instructions, there is a thread path that you can use to weave around. I'm going to show it to you really quick. I think it's easier to see on a flat sample. So we added all those side beads, and then we just added an 11 and the clasp and the 11. And now what I'm about to do is I'm going to do some weaving so I can get back through here one more time. So I'm going to go through this thread path. And this is showing it going under the pearl. I didn't go through the pearl. I'm going under it, through that bead, under it, and weaving up so I can go through the clasp. If there's another way that makes sense to go through the clasp, there probably is. This is just one way you can do it. And so I'm going to show that really quick. Okay, get my needle here. So wanting to get back over here, so I'm just going through here, going through this one. I'm going under that pearl. I'm going to go down And again, going under that pearl, if it helps, you can flip it over to see the other side. And if it's a little bit tight, like mine is, that's okay. I just want to get through there. And under. So what I am doing here is just, it's that same right angle weave circle that I'm avoiding going through the pearl by going under it. And so I'm exiting from this bead, coming up through the next one in my right angle weave square. And now all I'm going to do is just travel through the side, through all the beads in the side. These are the ones that we added through that one we just added at the beginning there, and now all through the clasp beads again. You could repeat that one more time for extra security through your clasp, but if you're using the 0.08 like me, and you're going through an 11, it'll work. It'll be tight. You'll need to use your chain pliers to pull it maybe, but I did my samples with just 2 passes, and I feel like they were just fine. So totally up to you. If you feel better about doing a 3rd pass, just do that same thing again. Go through here, through here, through here, up the side, through it, and down. And now it's just the fun part, just adding beads all the way down the side. So I'm going to do as much of that as we can. How are we doing on time? We're doing really good, so I think we'll get there. And so go this way. And if there's anything anyone wants to see again, I could probably swing that. Same pattern as before, where I'm adding the color I'm going into is the color I'm picking up. Just doing that for fun. Don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then it's definitely really spinny and coily, but when you put it on, it'll be a really cool 3D shape. Okay, colors that. It's kind of like a goldish green. I'm gonna find it. There it is. There we go. There's so many colors in this mix. They're so pretty. And I said this this is the agate mix. And I said it was my favorite, but then I forgot how much I love the amber mix. So honestly, I don't know. I like them all.
Danielle, I've got a quick question for you.
Sure.
Would one vial, whether you had a mix or a solid color, would one vial complete the project if you of 6.0?
Yes. Yeah, so including all the beads I have dumped out right here, this bracelet, I still have this much left.
Okay, perfect.
And this bracelet is about, its finished length is 6.5, and it was 7 inches when it was flat. Still a lot going on here. What you might want to think about if you're, if you want to do a pattern. The only reason I would have 2 vials of a mix handy is because if you need a certain number of any one bead color, what you might do, you'll have plenty of beads, but you may not have the color you want. So if you're really excited about a pattern that you're going to do, you might want to grab like, 2 agate mixes, or 10 because you're like me. You don't know. Okay, so all I'm doing is just picking up the next color in my pattern and going through. And again, a totally optional pattern. You can just do a solid or just mix it up. It'll work no matter what. And keep going. And it's also, it's pretty solid. I've been wearing the purple one over there. I've been wearing it a lot and it holds up to standard wear really nicely. But I just want to show you guys the other side and also just kind of how it changes as you're working this other side. So what you're seeing as I add each one of these is it's relaxing that curve because it's just hyper curving right now. And with every one of these new beads you add, it's just taking a more relaxed cuff shape. And it's that, it's that influence over the shaping of it that has the appeal of right angle weave in general. Because as a designer, you're always looking for ways to just change it up and be unique and be 3D. And the stitch has it all when it comes to that. And olive. Okay, I'm gonna dump out a few more because I ran out of that olive color that I like. And so this is a pattern that worked for me with one tube, and it is a mix, and I did follow a pattern, and I actually didn't run out of any colors I need. I can't guarantee that would happen every time, but that happened for me now. But there's some randomness, so to be totally safe, I'd grab 2 tubes if you're patterning, but I think it'll work. There's one more. Last one. Okay. So now I'm at the other end. And here's my tail thread. It's just kind of in the way right now. I'm gonna move it. So depending on where you are with your working thread, if like me, you added working thread and you've got plenty left, feel free to use it to make your clasp connection. If you're running low, good news is you have this tail to work with too. You can work it with either. I've already got a needle on my working thread and I've got plenty of it, so I'm going to keep going from the working thread, but either would be fine. And so what I did is I added the last bead on the corner. I'm exiting from the center here. Picked up 111. I need the other side of my clasp. Let me go through that. Picking up one more 11. And I am crossing an intersection, which, in right angle weave, we try to avoid doing that, but in this case, I'm crossing it with something, with my clasp. And there you go. So same as we did before, I'm gonna weave around and try to get through that again. And then I'm gonna weave in my tail, weave in my working thread, and I've got a finished bracelet. So again, going through this bead and under the pearl. So all I've done is go through that bead and underneath the pearl. And now I'm going to turn, go through this one. And again, that path is, it's sketched out in the diagram. That shows what I'm doing here. It also gets pretty tight at this point. So I'm trying to get through this bead without hitting the pearl on the other side. There we go. Got it. Okay. So just give yourself some patience with that step, because that one step is the only tricky ending part there. Just going through the next in my right angle weave, making that circle. So I'm exiting through this one. I'm gonna go all the way up the side. I'm sorry, my thread came off here. Okay, going through here. Again, that's my tail thread. I'm gonna pull that out of the way. How are we doing? We're at 354. So do you guys want to see anything else, or I could continue weaving this in? I went through it twice. I went through my clasp twice. So it's, again, I'm using 0.08, so it gets really strong there. But if you wanted to, just do that same path again. Through here, 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 and up the side. But I'm thinking it's okay to weave in now. And I'd have to do that for both my working and tail threads. This is the tail thread. It's kind of hanging out here. If you were short of thread coming up the side and you needed to use the tail, you would just need to weave around so that you're exiting this direction. Just kind of like we did we did just here, you know, just spinning through in a circular direction, in any direction that works for you to get that way. Okay, so not hearing any questions, so just really quick, I'm going to bring these out of the way. This thread here.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey.
You're doing great for time.
Awesome.
One really good question that I think everyone might like to hear is, have you tried it with another type of clasp?
I haven't yet, but I believe it would work out just fine. The shape of it, so you see how it was really going crazy with coiling, but now it's like perfectly round. The shape of it is largely influenced by adding those last sides. So the sixes here on this side and on the forward side. I think if there was a clasp on it, my only thought that I'm having right now is if it added a lot of space, meaning if it was like bigger, like if it was a toggle, for example, you may not need to make it a full half-inch bigger than you need it to be if your toggle is going to give you some room. So take that into account. Like say, do I have a toggle here? I do. So if I was going to add like a toggle clasp like that, then you don't need to add all that extra length.
Got it. And would you ever try it as a full bangle without a clasp?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think that would be really cute. Finishing it would be interesting. You'd probably want to join your last 2 rows of right angle weave at the stage where you begin it. So let's see where my other little sample went. I had 2 of these floating around. There we go. Okay, so pretend I've done a really long one. You would want to join it at this stage. So create a row that joins them. Put 1 bead, go through it again. Weave down around here, and then just put 1 bead. And that would be your join. And then add your pearls, and then you're done. And you wouldn't have to, you'd still have to do the side part, but you wouldn't have to add a clasp, and that would save quite a lot of time and effort for weaving around. I hope that answered it, but yeah, that's actually
a perfect answer, Danielle. And we are coming to the end, and you do have a few regulars who definitely want to see your next class.
Awesome. Okay, great. Let's turn my camera around here. Hey, can you guys see? I'm going to move this out of the way. This is my new light. So I feel like it's improving maybe a little bit on the map. So, and here's my bracelet. It still has its, pieces hanging, but oh, kind of fun. I like the color. And next class. So the next class we're going to do are these really cute earrings. So here's a blue color and here's a lavender. I just did a lavender in it. And this is a fringe earring design. It's made with herringbone stitch. And you'll notice that it uses wildfire with fringe. You're like thinking, no, wildfire with fringe. Yeah, but we want it to be we want it to fan and flare. So this little flare it's got going, the wildfire will give it that. Normally in a fringe design, I would use like a Nymo or something lighter, but in this case, you guys will see what I mean when we get started next week. So yeah, that's that design. And if you've already started looking at this handout, I want to flag one thing. There's one little typo. I'm gonna send a revise of this, but on step 6, there's an extra bead in the diagram. You'll notice it right away when you get there. So I just want to point that out. So there'll be a revised version of that. And then also next week, I'm going to show you guys February, and I'm hoping to do, kind of like a palette there. So if anyone has any questions, can answer them. All right, well, it sounds like everyone's good. So I will see you guys next week, hopefully, and have a really great weekend. And thank you so much for being here tonight. Bye, y'all.